Today I'm going to be talking about Gershwin's first Prelude. I'm going to give you some tricks and tips and fingerings on this and talk a little bit about the theory behind it. First thing I want to say is the tempo of this piece. 100 is ludicrous speed, so I would not recommend that unless, I haven't heard anybody actually play it at 100 clean. I usually play it about 88, 92, anywhere in there because there is some rubato. To decide the tempo of this piece, what I do is I just go to the last page and see how fast I can play this number. And if I put that at about 92, I can get my... That's how fast I want to... Because you want to be able to play in time. So if I can't play that at the right speed, then you need to slow it down. The theory of this piece is a little different than normal classical music. You're going to be playing out of this scale, and a lot of people are looking for, triads and basic 1-4-5 or 2-5-1 progressions, and there is a lot of that in here, but you've got to realize that when you're dealing with jazz, you're going to be adding notes to the chords. So for example, the first chord, you're going to have this G in your B-flat chord, so you get a B-flat 6 chord. Now you notice I also grab that with my left hand. I find that to be just a little easier than going, doing it with two hands here. I just take that F and that G with my thumb, and then I don't have to move so much with my left hand. I think that's a little easier. So once it starts, what you're doing is you're using that blues third, that C sharp, going into the chord, staying in the chord, B flat. So there's nothing that's outside of the chord there. In the left hand, you just have a B-flat 6 chord. So, okay, and there we just have an F7 chord, so nothing unusual still. Okay, we just have that blues third again. Still everything in the chord. Oops. And here we're going to have a 4 chord, E-flat, but it's going to be minor. So we have a little mode mixture there. So here we just have a little grace note. Remember, outside of the chord, inside of the chord. You've got an E that's not in the B flat, resolving to the F that is. And really, you could put anything in here. I mean, it doesn't matter as long as you end on a beat that has a note that's in the chord. Going to the triplet section, measure 20. The best way to practice this is to block the chords in the right hand. I'll give you my fingerings for both sections so you can just pause the video. So when I play this triplet section, what I want to do is set a tempo, okay, and then I want to do that in time with the metronome. You're gonna have to keep it light. But if you can't do this, you're not going to be able to do that. If you notice that the last chord of each one of these triplets is a 5 chord of the next chord that it goes to. So in this case, A13, A acting as the 5 chord, going to D, and then the other one was, I had a G7, and then it went to a C major 7. I'm sorry, that's a G13. And then going to the C major 7. Either way, it's a 5 chord going to a 1, or a dominant chord, whatever you want to call it. And then this one, A. So nothing, crazy about the theory there, just pretty basic, but it sounds really complicated because you have all this other stuff going on, you've got added notes, and of course the rhythms are very funky. Moving on to measure 42. I like this part, and it's a good example of going outside of the chord, resolving back in. So I'm just in D. So I have this right in the left hand. So going to D. It wouldn't be as interesting if I just went. That would suck, right? But if I have something that's out and then it resolves in, it sounds cool. Same thing there. It's not in the chord, but it's going to resolve in the next measure, right? And then I have this one too. Just to repeat. Now, the fingerings on this, I'll show you as well, so you can just pause the video. There's a little trick here if you're not a purist, that as in you don't play exactly the notes. I don't typically like to leave notes out of a piece, but this makes it a lot easier. It's going to sound a lot better. Getting up to this and then doing that D major chord at the end is very difficult, especially if you have small hands. So I would recommend 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then just coming in and leaving out the A at the top. So you just have A, D, and F sharp. Makes it so much easier. Whoops. Something like that. And no one's going to hear that A at the top anyways, most likely. I mean, if you're leaving out that note, it's unless they're really, really paying attention, because it's pretty quick. Next section I want to talk about is after you have these octaves. And for demonstration purposes, you might be noticing I'm not using a lot of pedal. I probably would use pedal in a lot of this piece, but in order to keep it clean, you know, so you can hear the notes I'm playing, I'm just not using pedal. But in this part right here, I'll go ahead and show you my fingerings. There's a little trick to this, I think, is, you know, coming in and then just using your fourth finger on that A flat. Because you're already, if you're ending on 3 on that G, your fourth finger's already set up for that A flat. And just have a really floppy wrist. Whoops. And just kind of rest. Don't try to like push down on it. I just let my, you know, I talk about in my lessons, I talk about this is the dead guy. You know, you want to use the weight of your arm. So just use the weight of your arm and you'll get onto that A flat. Then off that, you know, you can push, whoops, wrong chord. You can push off that and get your octaves. The last section I wanted to talk about was the 30-second note run at the end. Before that, you notice that there's those 2 little lines. That does mean that you can take a little breath there, so it kind of gives you time when you come out of this to get situated so you can do this. But when I practice this, what I want to do is set the metronome marking maybe 88 and then do one hand at a time. Now, practice so light that you almost don't even make a noise when you're playing the keyboard. But the idea is you're starting on G and you're getting to B flat, and you want to reach your destination in time, even if you don't make a noise. Because if you don't make a noise, like if you miss a note, if you miss a wrong note, people are going to hear it. But if you don't play a note, no one's going to hear it, especially when you got the pedal. So practice 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. So it's so light that you're getting there, but it's not making any noise. Then just gradually increase how hard you're touching the keys. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and same thing with left hand. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. 1 and 2 and 1 and put the 2 together. 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and that's what it should sound like. Well, I hope this video helped you. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. And thanks for watching.